Hello and welcome, Toronto Raptors NBA fans. Welcome back to the wrap up. I'm Oren Weisfeld. I got Adon Moss with me. And today we're going to do a special little exercise going through the entire NBA and predicting over-under win totals for every NBA team. So basically, we're going to talk about the additions every team made, the subtractions they made, and then whatever their over-under is according to Vegas. And then we're going to tell you if you should spend your hard-earned money on that over or on that under, or if you should maybe stay away from it. So we're going to go, by division, starting with the Atlantic, where the Toronto Raptors reside. And Adon, you ready? You ready to do this?
I'm ready to roll. I feel obligated to tell you that we don't encourage gambling, but if you like to sprinkle a couple of coins on the odd bet or two, hopefully this will help you out a bit. And I'd like to say also, we did all this research, we had all these statistics ready to go, and then Kevin Durant, lo and behold, decides that after all of this, he is happy in Brooklyn. And that changed all of the division odds in the Atlantic Division. Didn't change the over and unders yet, but maybe that'll happen. But as of right now, it's still the same. So TBD on that.
In a way, it helped us because the big if going into the season was, are Kyrie and KD going to be on different teams, and that would screw a lot of the over-unders. But now we got, honestly, it's August 23rd, and I think we have a really good idea of what teams are going to look like when the season enters. The one question mark is still Donovan Mitchell. If he changes teams, that obviously affects the Jazz odds and then other teams' odds, but that's already baked into the Jazz odds, as you'll see.
Yeah.
So, just to be clear, we're gonna, for the YouTube viewers, because this is also a podcast, thanks to our podcast listeners, for the YouTube viewers, each division is going to be its own video. So by the end of this video, if you're enjoying it and want to keep going, then just head to the Raptors Republic YouTube channel, and every division, a video of every division will be there, so you can kind of follow along that way. We'll start with the East, then we'll do the Western Conference. Does anything need to be said?
We're reading the comments because someone said these hour-long YouTube videos are too much. So we said, okay, fine. We're going to divide this down into 6 separate videos and see how that goes. So if you hate it, let us know. If you love it, let us know. I'm going to start with the Atlantic Division. I'm going to do it by team, then their last year win total, their additions, subtractions, any questions that Oren and I have about this team heading in, and then we'll read out the over-under number, and we will choose, and we will yammer about it. Yeah, well, we'll argue maybe, but or concur. I don't know, whatever. All right, let's get this going. So we're in the Atlantic Division. Arguably, I'd say this is the second best division in the NBA coming into the season. You have 4 legitimate teams, one not so sure team, and now with Kevin Durant staying in Brooklyn, it's going to be a hell of a division. So we're going to start with the Boston Celtics. Last year they were 51-31, a unique situation where 3 teams tied last year, Boston being one of them. They added in free agency Danilo Gallinari. They added via trade Malcolm Brogdon, and they drafted J.D. Davison 53rd overall. They lost a bunch of garbage. I don't mean garbage. They lost a bunch of players that
we're not going to read every two-way player.
Yeah, I mean, point in the season again because he's just destined to be with Brad Stevens.
He's a white. So yes.
Yeah, he's a white guy, a handsome white guy, a German.
They go to
tattooed German. He's got have you seen his big mythological tree on his arm? It's got to be some Germanic origins there. Anyway, okay, so biggest questions to me, Oren, is really just health. Malcolm Brogdon is notorious for missing time, and in fact, that was a reason why he was drafted, I believe, in the second round. It's why Milwaukee didn't give him a big contract. He's always had injury problems with his feet and his hamstrings. It hasn't been any different in Indiana, so that's a problem. Robert Williams, Time Lord, also big question mark when it comes to health. He has not had a consistently healthy season. And Al Horford, who's a big part of both ends of the court for them, is going to be old. I don't have his exact age, but he's getting up there.
Yeah.
The year before last, he took the whole year off because he was in Oklahoma. This year, or he went all the way to the finals, so that will be something to watch for. The division odds, they're favored. They're minus 135, and the over-under, Oren, is 54 and a half games. What are your thoughts on the Boston Celtics this year?
Yeah, I'm just looking it up, and Horford's also going to play for the Dominican Republic this
Oh,
summer.
wow.
So yeah, like going from no NBA basketball in OKC to a lot of playoff basketball and then a summer with the Dominican Republic, it's definitely like there's a reason to be concerned how much he can play. This is the Boston Celtics depth chart. So just to so
Read their starting
54.
five, maybe for the podcasters.
Sure. So yeah, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, and Robert Williams are the starting five. And then we kind of I'm not gonna read every depth piece, but yeah, they're a very deep team. And I mean, that's probably the number one thing I look for when we're discussing over unders is depth. Just because I don't know if COVID's gonna be a factor this season.
Hmm.
That remains to be seen. It has been the last couple of years, and depth has really mattered when guys have left to COVID. But regardless, like now we're seeing a lot more soft tissue injuries than ever, and we're seeing teams be super safe with guys just holding them out as long as possible, and that's where your depth really matters. I like the Celtics depth a lot compared to last season, but that's just a lot of wins.
It
Like,
is a lot of
yes,
ones.
they went to the finals, and so automatically they're gonna get this huge bump, based on the way they ended the season and going to the finals, but it feels a little high for me. Just first initial thoughts.
Yeah. First of all, I'd just like to make a quick correction. The division odds changed to plus 100. That's post Kevin Durant announcement. So um, you'll see that I said something different earlier. Yeah, I think, Boston had an atrocious first half of the year.
Mhm.
And then they went on this buzzsaw run in the second half. So, I mean, you could look at this one of two ways. Like the 51 games maybe that they won last year is a reach, or maybe, if they had figured their stuff out earlier in the year, they would have had an even higher over under. I'm I'm also of the mind, like you said, you look for depth. I look for like what is this team's position as far as how they see themselves and how they've proved themselves in the league. Boston just went to the finals. Like they don't
Mhm.
care about winning the East anymore unless, we'll figure out how important positioning is as we go down the line. But these guys are now looking towards the playoffs. And I think whenever that happens, your win total takes a hit a game or two. So I also think 54 and a half is a little low. Division games with Philly, Brooklyn, and Toronto, like that's going to be those could be a lot of split series.
Yeah, I'm already having a hard time on the first one. Like, I mean, this is what Vegas does is they make it hard and they make it, you know, a number like that's around the number I obviously think the Celtics are gonna finish at. Um, I'm gonna say under. I'm just gonna go under. I'm just gonna commit to something, not by much. I think they'll be a 50-win team, but between I think some of the older guys, Gallinari, Horford, Brogdon, like injury concerns with those guys, and then also like, do Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, do they have another like step to reach? And I don't really know. Like to me, it remains to be seen. Tatum probably. The other two, I'm a little skeptical. So I think just based on that, I'm gonna say right. I'm gonna just take the under.
Yeah, I'm going under two for what I said. I think they're going to I mean, a lot of those guys, Tatum just went on podcast and said he played injured for a lot of the season. Marcus Smart is injured often. All of those guys have had health issues. This is about preserving the core of your team and having them at their utmost going into the playoffs. So I think they're gonna take some losses almost purposely, and so I'm also going under.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. Let's move on. I'll have more to say on that topic of like not taking the regular season too seriously. I think there are some teams that do that. I don't think the Celtics are gonna be one just because they're still young and like they've never done it before. Like they haven't been the number one seed in the East in years. So it's a bit different than like a Milwaukee who did it again and again and didn't reap the rewards in the playoffs. But anyways, that's
Yeah,
a topic for another day.
yeah. I mean, based on Grant Williams' comments, they think they're the top of the top. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's go to the Philadelphia 76ers. Um, Last year, they were one of the teams that tied with Boston at 51-31. They arguably had the best free agency in the NBA offseason this year. They added Daniel House, Trevelyan Queen, and PJ Tucker. They also traded for DeAnthony Melton for a draft, and they lost their draft pick in that trade. The only subtraction was Danny Green, who blew out his knee, no thanks to Embiid flopping sideways. And addition by subtraction, DeAndre Jordan going to Denver. I don't know what Denver's thinking. Um, Biggest question marks really is James Harden. Who are we going to get? All signs point to him having a rebound year. He's saying all the right things. He's getting paid all the right amounts. Um, I think I think I've seen predictions of him being like a first team ballot all NBA or this year or like in MVP contention. If he's anywhere near that, then this team is going to be very, very good. And I think Embiid's only going to get better too. Um, Division odds also changed for them. They're now plus 350 and their over under is 49 and a half. Oren, Philadelphia 76ers, our nemesis. I think they're Toronto's nemesis now. I really do. I don't know that there's really anybody else that compares.
Yeah. So here's the depth chart, and I'm just like, okay, they won 51 games last year, and for half the season, Ben Simmons was sitting on the bench, and James Harden wasn't there, right? And so since then, they now have a healthy Harden for the whole season, and they've added a ton of depth. Like they lost Danny Green, but they added a ton of depth with Melton and PJ Tucker and Paul Reed, underrated depth at the center position. I think he's ready to be the backup center. So to me, it's actually easy over. Like me and you haven't really gone through these teams in, like ahead of time, and like we
No,
are not gonna have the correct amount of overs and unders to make it make sense. We're just kind of going by feel here. But yeah, just looking at it, I'm surprised to say this, but I think 49 is a little low for me. They win 51 games last year, and they get, I think, a better Maxi, a better Harden, and better depth. To me, that's a pretty clear over. Like the caveat I'll say is Joel Embiid's health. He's been healthy 2 seasons in a row, finished MVP runner up 2 seasons in a row, but we know he has an injury history. So of course, if their MVP candidate isn't healthy for more than like 60, 50, 60 games, then yeah, maybe I'll change my mind on this, but that's where I'm at.
yeah, I mean, the injury thing is the injury thing. Like we can't really. That's obviously not something you want to predict, unless, of course,
Yeah.
there is this injury history. But Embiid's had a good last 2 seasons, so I mean, we base it on his health. I think, they have a lot of depth this year. Like Tyball's going to play 15 minutes a game, which is what he should play. And
Yeah.
I think like Melton gives them another kind of wing defender. I think one thing about the playoffs for them that they can take as a bonus is Tobias Harris seemed to figure out how to be the fourth wheel.
Yeah.
Um, and I
He
think
was great
that
against
he
Toronto.
was great, and that's really where he should be. He should be an overachieving fourth option, and I think that's going to make them a very And that's the other part is that if somebody gets injured, if Harden misses time with a hamstring, or even Embiid goes down for a little bit, they have enough scoring and enough depth to make up for it in the dog days of the season. So I really like this team to my chagrin, and I think 49 and a half is super low. If they have,
Yeah,
like you said, 51 last year, and there was all the controversy and injuries and whatever else, like I think this is just an easy one for me.
me too. And like as a Raptors fan, which we are, I think you really wish you got them last year in the playoffs because this is a much scarier team to me in a playoff setting.
Yeah,
Um, PJ
yeah,
Tucker, he just brings that veteran know-how. James Harden is healthier. Tyrese Maxey has another whole year of experience under his belt. Like this is going to be a better prepared team for the playoffs. I think they'll go a little bit deeper.
yeah. I think we, for Toronto fans, I still think we match up quite well with them. Like we will never control Embiid, but I do think they still didn't really they didn't figure out the issue in the offseason. You could argue Melton is that he's a little small. Daniel House is, I mean, is Daniel House, and PJ Tucker's getting old, so there
You're right. And
is,
yeah,
yeah, there is optimism with a team like us who has, a wealth of wing players who are very dynamic. So take
it's
solace
true.
in
Like
that.
neither team can defend each other, I think,
No,
right?
right. No, I
So,
totally. But I mean, that would be an upper hand for Philly because they have more scoring power than we do.
yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Anyways,
All right, let's
let's
move
move
on.
on.
Next, we got the new and improved Brooklyn Nets. They just added Kevin Durant. Um, they had a tough year last year. The Brooklyn, to say the least, they were 44 and 38. In free agency, I like what they did. They added T.J. Warren and Edmund Sumner in free agency. They also traded for Royce O'Neal, which was an indicator that this Brooklyn team was not going to deconstruct the roster, but ramp up again. They lost Andre Drummond to Chicago, Bruce Brown to Denver, and Goran Dragic, our favorite Toronto Raptor, to the Chicago Bulls. To me, biggest questions was KD and Kyrie. That seems to be off the table now. So now the biggest question remaining is what's going to go on with Ben Simmons? Is he going to come out healthy and mentally prepared for the year? What's going to happen with TJ Warren? He's a very excellent addition to this team, but he hasn't been healthy in over a year now. And then the final piece or the final question is how is this all going to unfold? Kevin Durant asked ownership to get rid of the general manager and the head coach, Steve Nash. And now everything's hunky dory. So that really remains to be seen. I do think guys like Durant and Irving are professionals. They'll go out there and they will perform. But uh, yeah, there could be some challenges there. Oren, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this was a really hard team to predict because I'm still skeptical that everything is like great over there. I think trades are totally on the table. Like big trades are on the table this season. If they get off to a bad start and KD's unhappy, then they have to trade KD and then they're going to probably trade Kyrie. So it's really like hard to predict. Regardless of that, because I guess like I kind of have to go into the season thinking, okay, Kyrie and KD are going to be there for the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't like their depth. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't. And I think that might be a controversial take, but like Patty Mills is getting up there in age. Okay. Cam Thomas is a scorer, yes, but has he ever proved he could play winning NBA basketball? Joe Harris is coming off a serious injury, and we just don't know what he's going to be able to give them, especially defensively. Their centers are Nick Claxton. Like, like look at that center depth. Is that making
Aaron
you
Sharp?
smile at night?
No.
And then Ben Simmons is a huge question mark. So I think I'm gonna take the under. Also, I know I'm gonna take a lot of overs. So whenever I'm not sure, my like initial reaction is to go under. I'm taking the under mostly because I don't believe Ben Simmons is gonna play 60 games. Like I really don't. For whatever reason, I just don't. Like I don't have a good reason. I just don't believe in Ben Simmons. And so I'm taking the under.
I should say Brooklyn's favored, or they're plus 210 to win the division. Their over under is 45 and a half games. I kind of like your logic in which if I'm hesitant, go under. But I think Kevin Durant and Kyrie alone can will this team to 40 wins. And then if you get Ben Simmons into the mix, um, that's to me, that's a 47, 48 win team. No problem. At first glance, I did love the roster. And as you walked us through it, I started to, have concerns. I think, Seth Curry and Patty Mills are small. There's a lot of scores. There's not much defense. I think Royce O'Neal will be a nice plug and play defender, but that's about it. I think him and Ben Simmons are really the only the positive defenders on the team. Maybe Nicholas Claxton at times. Um, but I mean, there's no reason to doubt Durant and Kyrie. So I'm going to take the
Yeah.
over with these guys.
Yeah, I might be super wrong and they might win over 50 games. Warren is also an X factor. He was
Mm.
really good the last time he was healthy and like would be a great scorer off the bench for them. I just don't know what to expect from him. I do like you're right that Kyrie and KD should be able to give you 40 wins, just the two of them. But like, I mean, last season, even when Kyrie was playing with them and was healthy and they were playing together, it's not like they were lighting the world on fire.
No. But
Um,
but they also had Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge playing like heavy minutes. I mean, this team is
yeah.
much younger, much more athletic. They have Kessler
I think it's
Edwards,
only
Dave
much
Duke
younger
Jr.
and more athletic if you consider Ben Simmons gonna be playing a lot. You know what I mean? Because the depth
Yeah.
outside of him is not very young and athletic and defensive. He's the guy that kind of holds it together. And so my logic is if he's not playing, I just don't see them out shooting enough 45 wins. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna
I
stay
I
with
mean
that.
you're right. Like I actually bet the under because and this was prior to
Right,
today, but
right,
that's
right.
because I was just hedging my bets that this would be like an imploding team. There are
Yeah,
a ton of question marks. Joe Harris's health, Ben's, TJ Warren.
yeah,
But if all of those go in the positive direction, I think this team is actually, especially their 7 or 8 is very intimidating. Like Joe Harris can be that guy that guards the better wing on the other team. Um,
yeah,
so yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Let's
We'll
move
see.
on. So Oren, you went under, I went over. That's our first conflict.
Disagreement.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go to the
Can, wait,
Toronto.
can we do the
What?
Knicks and then
Oh,
wrap up with the
okay.
Raptors? I
Okay,
think it
yeah,
makes sense too.
that does make sense. Okay. New York Knicks. Ugh.
Oh, sorry. No one can see this.
The last year, the New York Knicks were 37-45. They added in free agency Jalen Brunson, surprise, surprise, and a nice signing with Isaiah Hartenstein. The advanced analytics love him. And they drafted Trevor Keels. Subtractions, Alec Burks, Taj Gibson, Nerlens Noel, Kevin Walker, no big deal. The biggest questions, are they going to trade for Mitchell? That's really what this comes down to. I don't see any other team that's really going to come away with this. Like Mitchell just seems destined for New York. They've been courting each other for over a year now, so it just seems like a question of when, not if. Uh, Julius Randle had a down year. Will he bounce back? And Tom Thibodeau, this is year 3. He doesn't typically stick around for many more years than this in his last couple of stints. So um, it'll remain to be seen what New York can do this year. Their division odds are plus 6,000 and their over under is 39.5 games. Warren.
Yeah. Um, this is the depth chart. Yeah, I'm gonna just like I kind of baked in the possibility of some drama brewing in Brooklyn into my under. I'm gonna take the over here, baking in the real possibility that Mitchell gets traded there. But even if he doesn't, the Knicks won 41 games 2 years ago, the year where like they had a surprise run and Randall was great and everything went well for them. So basically, like, can this team get there? This is obviously a way better team than that one was, just with the Brunson edition. And so I think like, yeah, if enough things go right, I think they can get back to 41 wins. I think Jalen Brunson's really, really good and like underrated because I never understood the contract talk. Like, did the Knicks pay too much for Jalen Brunson? Hey, they got him. They didn't give up anything, and they got to sign a point guard, which they desperately needed, and a young one who's really good and getting better. Like, I don't care if you're paying him $100 million. This is the NBA. Like, salary caps are going up, et cetera, et cetera. I think RJ is gonna have a big year. I'm skeptical about Randall, but like, yeah, like my issue with the Knicks isn't the talent. There's a lot of talent. Quickly, Quentin Grimes, like Obi Toppin, I think is gonna have a good
My
year.
boy Miles McBride.
Sure, my thing is they need to figure out a better offense where Julius Randle isn't just dribbling the ball, the air out of the ball. Like, mm, I really want to see a more democratic offense from the Knicks, not one that just is through. I want Julius Randle to be like a second, third option rather than like every night. Like they're acting like he's KD and he's not. So yeah,
This team is on the precipice of implosion. I just,
really,
yeah, I don't like the vibes I got from Julius Randle last year, especially with a coach like Tom Thibodeau, who's not going to stand for any of that.
you're like,
Um,
oh yeah, the Nets are fine, but the Knicks are on the precipice of the
yeah,
explosion.
but the thing is the Nets have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Like, name the two best players on the Knicks.
Brunson and RJ.
Okay. Like
Yeah,
Brunson was a sixth man for
I just
Dallas, and
named them.
RJ hasn't really proven anything yet. I do like a lot of their youth, but I think they're gonna run into a lot of problems with like younger, like hungrier teams. Like I think Orlando and Detroit are gonna walk in there and steal a game or two. Um, I'm not so
I thought you were
sure.
gonna say like their youth could hurt them because they have a lot of young guards and those guys tend to struggle. I
Well,
don't think.
but Thibodeau doesn't play the young guys anyway, so you're gonna get
Yeah,
37 minutes from Evan Fournier. Like I don't, I just this team does not excite me in the slightest. And somebody in the East has generally gotten a lot stronger, and a team that looks okay on paper has to sink. And I think New York has just proven year after year that they don't have the resolve to persevere, and this team does not thrill me in the slightest.
you know what? I kind of want to change my answer. Only because I think there's a real possibility they trade Randall this season and go into tank mode.
Well, unless they, yeah,
Unless they trade for Mitchell. So
well,
that's the thing. I don't know.
even if they trade for Mitchell, they could unload Randall in a third trade and just restart.
I know, but if they trade for Mitchell, I would take the over. So fine, I'll stay with the over. You go
All right,
under. We'll
I'm going
see.
under.
Let's. I
Yeah,
want to move on
I
anyways because
really
we're
hope
getting
that
up
they
there.
are under, though. It's so enjoyable when the Knicks crater. Okay, our last team of the Atlantic Division and our favorite team of the Atlantic Division, the Toronto Raptors. I'm not going to bother with all the additions, subtractions. We've talked about it ad nauseum. Um,
Yeah,
they
people
are
know.
they're plus 900 in the division. Their over under is 44 and a half. Last year, as a reminder, they won 48 games and won the over, which I believe was 44 and a half as well, maybe 45 and a half. So they're around the same ballpark. And I'll start this one because to me, this is just like the lock of all locks. I
Yeah, it's a
understand
lot.
that the East has gotten better, as we've said, from bottom to top. Um, but so has Toronto. We have another year of Scotty. We have another year of all of these other guys who are still on the rising action of their careers. It might be the pinnacle for some. They've gotten deeper. They've had a year to gel. This is the first. Last year was the first year that Pascal discovered himself as the first option. It was the first year for Freddie to be the floor general. OG was injured for a big part. We had COVID problems. I just think this team is hungry. I think they still feel that chip on their shoulder, like they're still doubted across the league. Pascal gets no love, OG gets no love, Freddie gets no love, Gary gets no love, and Scotty is Scotty. So I think this team's going to come out like guns blazing, and I think they're going to get close to 50 wins, if not more.
Yeah, we both predicted our wins on the last episode we did about the schedule. If people want to check that out, we were both around 50. I agree it's an easy lock. And I think the biggest thing is like, okay, if you just look at this talent, it's not blowing you away. I think it is right around the 45 win mark if you're just considering talent and depth. But the biggest thing for the Raptors and the reason they keep getting disrespected by the NBA and overachieving their over under is just because like they go hard every night
Mm.
in the regular season and they come with detailed game plans and they execute them and they play extremely hard. And there's just a real culture there of taking every game super seriously. It doesn't matter if it's a back to back, doesn't matter if you're playing Orlando. So I think that factor combined with the talent, which is getting better, combined with the chemistry, which is getting like they're developing a lot of chemistry on both ends of the floor. And I think as we saw last season, started off really ugly, got better as the season went on. You trust Nick Nurse as a coach to keep developing that chemistry and it just looking better and better. So yeah, it's a lock. It's an easy over.
I didn't even
Toronto.
mention Precious Achua, and you're right. Like part of the culture is if you don't play your ass off, you will sit, especially
Yeah.
with those like the middle range guy. But even
Just ask
I'm
Malachi Flynn.
exactly, or ask Utah, even though he does play his ass off. But um, yeah, I agree with you. And the Raptors, like you said, the Raptors get the wins when they play the hungover team or another team kind of
Yeah.
comes out lackluster. Like you will get chewed up if you do that against the Raptors. And there's a lot of available wins for those throughout the season.
And they
So
were so injured last year and they had
yeah,
terrible depth and they still won 48 games.
yeah.
So yeah.
And they are a lot deeper. I mean, if
Yeah.
Flynn or Banton can give them real minutes, and when they sign Jarrett Culver, um, no, but I think like if they can just figure out that guard situation, which we've talked about a lot,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel good about them.
And I think that's also a trade deadline thing. If one of those guys don't step up, I think they'll
Yeah,
address it. They have all
depending
their
on
first
where
round
they're at,
picks.
but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's wrapping up the Atlantic division.
Yeah. So
Um,
we are going to move to the Central Division. So if you're on YouTube, go to the next video. Podcasters, hey, how are you?